My husband and I were reborn at the same time. His first act after being reborn was to save the white moonlight, his haunting crush from our previous life, who had committed suicide on our wedding day. As for me, despite my unhappy marriage in my past life, I still chose to repeat the same mistakes. My husband, having successfully saved the white moonlight, boasted shamelessly in front of me, fully believing he had me completely under his control. But he didn't know that the white moonlight he cherished was actually a carefully prepared weapon to destroy his heart. When Lucas Preston took off his wedding ring and turned to leave, I realized he had been reborn too. The guests at the banquet gasped in surprise, and Lucas's mother, Eleanor, rose angrily. "Lucas, where are you going? Come back here." But the only response was Lucas's resolute back as he walked away. I knew where he was going. Lucas harbored a secret love, the person he had loved but couldn't have in high school, in my past life, on our wedding day. His beloved committed suicide. He blamed it all on me, always wearing a sullen face during arguments, wishing I would die in front of him immediately. "It's all your fault. You killed her. You're the one who truly deserves to die." He longed for my death, and later, I did just as he wished, dying early in a car accident. But unexpectedly, we were both reborn. According to my memories from my past life, his beloved is now embroiled in a sex symbol scandal, with many unsavory photos of her private life being posted online. Her depression has worsened because of this, and she's preparing to commit suicide by cutting her wrists to prove her innocence. So, the moment he walked out of the banquet hall, I knew he desperately wanted to change the ending of our previous life. Unfortunately, I didn't intend to let him have his way. Even though my life was wasted in marriage in my past life, I still completed the wedding ceremony. Mrs. Preston praised my virtue and gave me 3% of the Preston Group's shares as part of the dowry. The wedding ended perfectly, signifying a further strengthening of the cooperation between the Preston and Sheldon families. Unlike my past life, in this life, Lucas is busy with his white moonlight, his love interests, and has no time to care about our relationship. I'm left to take the initiative. So, when I drove to Lucas's villa, I saw my luggage lying on the garden lawn from afar. Lucas stood arrogantly at the door, coldly watching me. That look made me momentarily dazed. In my past life, when our relationship broke down in middle age, he looked at me like that, uttering extremely vicious words. "Every second I spend with you feels like I've swallowed a fly." It's disgusting beyond words. Those past images kept flashing through my mind. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, opening my eyes again, looking at Lucas's indifferent face. I felt no emotion whatsoever towards this man. However, our Sheldon family is a well-known family in our circle. Face is more important than anything. To have my luggage thrown away right after our wedding, if word got out, it wouldn't look good. The Sheldon family servant beside me stepped forward and questioned, "Young Master Preston, what do you mean by this?" Before Lucas could speak, a charming and alluring woman suddenly stepped out from behind him, raising an eyebrow and sneering at me. "Miss Sophia, I've never seen anyone as shameless as you before. Lucas ran away from the wedding in public, and you still dare to call yourself the young mistress of the Preston family? It's laughable." This was the substitute for my beloved, Lucas's lover. In my past life, she often bullied me, showing off her power every now and then. For the sake of both families' reputation, I tolerated it time and time again, which only emboldened her arrogance. In this life, I naturally wouldn't tolerate it anymore. My beloved is still alive. What right does this substitute have to bark like a dog? I lowered my eyes slightly and gave the servants behind me a look. The Sheldon family understood immediately, strode forward, and slapped her hard across the face. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to our young lady like that?" Then, they shoved her to the ground and kicked her twice. She immediately screamed, "Lucas, help me, it hurts so much." I sneered, not bothering to look at Lucas's expression, and stepped forward, lifting her chin with one hand to examine her pretty face. "They say she's a substitute for the white moonlight, but I don't think she's like that at all." I suddenly raised my hand and slapped her twice more, chuckling softly. "What right do you have to speak to me? A servant of the Preston family? Or President Lucas's mistress?" Lucas spoke coldly. "Sophia, that's enough." "No, how could that be enough? Lucas tormented me for half my life in my past life, and I have to collect what he owes me, one by one." I casually rubbed my wrist and looked at Lucas. Is this the sincerity of the Preston family? He frowned upon hearing this, remaining silent. I knew he was weighing the pros and cons. After all, I had played a crucial role in the Preston Group's subsequent development in my previous life. Lucas couldn't have Serena, so he could only support her substitute in my past life. Before I married into the family, his mistress was kept outside because he needed the Sheldon family's help and dared not offend me in this life. Knowing in advance that the Preston Group's investment would succeed, he acted recklessly and brazenly brought his mistress home. But the overall situation is uncertain. Who can guarantee that nothing unexpected will happen? Lucas. Although this marriage is a business arrangement, I, Sophia Sheldon, have never been a patient person. Whether you choose cooperation or your mistress, it's up to you, I said forcefully. And Lucas's face grew increasingly grim. He looked at me, then at his mistress with her swollen cheeks, and finally gave in. I made a 3-point agreement with him. As long as he maintained a facade of marriage with me, didn't let his mistress cause trouble in front of me, and gave me 2% of the shares, I wouldn't care what he did outside. He agreed. After all, for him, with his memories of his past life, giving me the shares wasn't a big deal. He knew I wouldn't betray him. But what he didn't know was that I had also been reborn. Next, I ransacked the Preston family mansion, replacing all the servants with my own, just like in my previous life. Not long after, news came from the Sheldon family that Lucas had rescued his white moonlight and arranged for her to move into the Emerald Mansion. But strangely, Lucas didn't help her deal with the online controversy. Lucas and I, after all, were husband and wife in 2 lifetimes, seasoned old foxes. I knew exactly what he was up to. The Emerald Mansion was notorious for its mistresses. He was trying to force Serena to become his lover. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sneer. I thought his feelings for his white moonlight were so pure, but it turned out he was just as disgusting. However, his white moonlight was clearly not someone to be trifled with. I heard that after moving into the Emerald Mansion, she frequently argued with Lucas. Since that was the case, I decided to help them out. After a week of secret maneuvering, Lucas and I attended a banquet arm in arm. Miss Sophia and President Lucas are a perfect match. Oh, now you should call her Mrs. Preston. Lucas raised his glass and chuckled. Not at all. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson are a match made in heaven. Suddenly, a loud noise attracted their attention. I smiled slightly, put down my glass, and followed them. The show was about to begin. The surrounding guests all gathered around. In the center of the banquet hall, a drunken man was struggling with Serena. I glanced at Lucas's expression. He was angry. He still cares. The drunken man swore. Damn it, you're a hypocrite. You've been played with so much, and now you're pretending to be innocent in front of me. I'm really giving you face. Serena struggled fiercely. Please have some self-respect. The man squinted and laughed. You weren't like this when we met before. What? You started as a porn star. Now you're pretending to be innocent. The people around, upon hearing porn star, gave her suggestive glances at her chest and thighs. Serena instantly bit her red lips in a wronged expression, turning her head to look at Lucas with a helpless expression. Lucas's face was frighteningly cold, his fists clenched tightly, as if he was about to rush forward to help. But I grabbed him. Lucas, no. So many people are watching. You can't go. I held his hand tightly, my voice softening as I pleaded. You have to give me some face. And there's the cooperation between the Preston and Sheldon families. However, he didn't listen to a word I said. He frowned, pried my hands off, then kicked the drunk man aside and shielded Serena behind him. Are you tired of living? You dare to mess with just anyone. The man got up and cursed. You son of a bitch. Who the hell are you? What's it to you if I ask her to have a drink with me? Lucas sneered. She's my woman. If you dare to touch her today, you're going against the entire Preston group. Upon hearing the name Preston, the man instantly sobered up and hurriedly kowtowed and apologized. President Lucas, I'm so sorry. I was blind to your greatness. I deserve to die. I shouldn't have flirted with Mrs. Preston. The onlookers' gazes changed instantly upon hearing the name Mrs. Preston. Hilarious. Mrs. Preston? Isn't Mrs. Preston the eldest daughter of the Sheldon family? I think this is her lover, poor Miss Sophia. Her husband brings his mistress right to her doorstep. This isn't Mrs. Preston. This is Serena, a former porn star. She seems to be President Lucas's white moonlight. Look, Mrs. Sophia is here too, watching helplessly as her husband protects another woman. I've heard President Lucas has many mistresses. It seems it's true. Miss Sophia is in for a rough time. My tears welled up, and I looked deeply at Lucas. He glanced at me expressionlessly, then took Serena's hand and walked out. I watched them leave, put on my shawl, picked up my bag, and left too. As I turned away, I wiped away my tears, a barely perceptible smile playing on my lips. Lucas, even in this second life, you still can't outsmart me. Back at the villa, I ordered my men to throw Lucas's things out and smash his room to pieces. Meanwhile, news of what happened at the banquet quickly spread throughout our circle, and the old lady, hearing the rumors, immediately called me back. By the time Lucas returned to the villa and roared in fury at the sight of his home in ruins, I was already in the car heading to the old mansion. As soon as I got out, I pinched my thigh hard, and my eyes instantly welled up with tears. Eleanor knew I'd been wronged and gently patted my wrist to comfort me. Then she was about to call Lucas, demanding he and Serena come back and apologize. I immediately stopped the old lady, tears streaming down my face. Mom, I understand them. Our marriage was purely for political reasons. There's no real affection involved. Besides, Serena is Lucas's ideal woman, so it's understandable that he favors her. I can understand all of that. Eleanor frowned, speaking earnestly. Ultimately, it's my own fault for being useless and unable to control Lucas. Sophia, you're a good girl. I only accept you as my daughter-in-law. Tomorrow I'll arrange for you to join the company. I bet you can control him. Eleanor immediately offered me the position of deputy manager and gave me a considerable amount of her jewelry collection. I feigned gratitude, but inwardly I was overjoyed. That old hag, let's see how long you can keep up this act. Eleanor genuinely wanted to teach Lucas a lesson, so she made me stay at the old house for a few days. When I returned to the villa, every corner had been renovated. I took off my coat and asked Lucas with a cold smile, what? Didn't you bring your little sweetheart back to see? Lucas frowned and warned me, Sophia, watch your mouth. I raised an eyebrow and chuckled. What's the use of just telling me to watch my mouth? Look at what they're saying outside. Why don't you go and do something about it? I thought you found some high-class beauty, but it turns out you're just a weed that everyone can criticize. Lucas's face instantly turned ugly. Sophia, you think I'm being polite? I stopped smiling, stared at Lucas, and slapped him across the face decisively. Lucas, I'll say the same to you. You think I'm being lenient? I told you you can do whatever you want outside. I don't care. But don't let this disgusting thing happen under my nose. You broke your promise first. Why should I be the one to lose face with you? A handprint was imprinted on Lucas's face. He probably realized he was in the wrong, and dared not speak his anger. The next moment, he smiled, with a hint of ingratiation. Darling, don't be angry. I was wrong. Let's eat first. At the table, Lucas was very attentive, serving me a bowl of soup. I knew you were coming back today, so I specially prepared this for you. Drink it while it's hot. Don't be angry. Looking at his innocent face, I thought of my past life. Back then, I was deceived for half my life by this pure and innocent face. After marrying into the Preston family and falling in love with Lucas, I always thought about the group, working day and night for the company, transforming from a rich young lady into a strong woman. Lucas, however, felt that my assertiveness made him lose face in front of others and forced me to relinquish control of the company. Later, his mistress came to my door with her child, and I learned of his years of betrayal. After many years of marriage, we decided to divorce, but on my way to the lawyer's office for the divorce, I died in a car accident. Perhaps heaven took pity on me, for after my death, my soul floated out and followed Lucas to the Preston family home. I overheard my beloved mother-in-law and husband plotting to make the Sheldon family believe my death was an accident. It turned out that my beloved husband had tampered with the car, and my loving mother-in-law had added a drug to the tonic she prepared for me. They feared that a divorce would be detrimental to the Preston group, so they conspired to cause my death. She wants to cling to control of the Preston family, so she can't blame us for not keeping her, Mom. I warned you before not to give her too much power, but you wouldn't listen. Otherwise, why would we be doing all this now? That's your fault for being so useless. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given it to an outsider. I dedicated myself to the Preston group, only to become an outsider in the end. I covered my face and squatted on the ground, completely devastated. I wanted revenge, but I was already a ghost, powerless against them. I drifted around the villa, watching Lucas weep uncontrollably at the funeral. I wanted to tear off his facade. I screamed, but no one heard me. He had all my belongings burned, leaving nothing behind, saying he didn't want to be reminded of me. But the day after my burial, he couldn't wait to move into my room with his lover and illegitimate child. I hate him so much. That night, I floated above the bedroom, watching them make love. My eyes were bloodshot, as if they were about to bleed. Perhaps my obsession was too deep, but Lucas suddenly seemed to see me. Startled, he ran to the old lady's room without even putting on his clothes. Mom, I saw it. I saw Sophia covered in blood. She knows everything. She asked me where the baby was. Lucas, you're mistaken. Mom, it's true. Does she know that I drugged her and caused her miscarriage? My mind went blank, my teeth grinding together. My child, my unborn child. I was trembling with rage, looking at the mother and child, wanting to strangle them. I desperately wanted to rush over and tear them apart, but my reach was futile. I regretted it. I hated it. If I had another chance, I would make them pay 100 times, 1,000 times the price. In this life, it's time for them to pay. Lucas pretended to have dinner with me before leaving. I knew without asking that he was going to comfort Serena. Although I didn't care to ask any further questions, the servants in the villa reported to me, "Madam, the master had a little more wine before he left." Hearing this, I paused, holding my teacup. In my past life, when I was pregnant, he gave me an abortion pill. In this life, to keep me in check, the old lady gave me control of the company ahead of schedule. Knowing his temperament, he was bound to get restless, so he resorted to the same old trick, giving me hallucinogenic drugs. That way, I could go insane without anyone knowing. And the Sheldon family wouldn't say anything. But he didn't know that everyone inside and outside the villa belonged to the Sheldon family. The drugs he carefully obtained would only be for his own consumption. I nodded. Give him this dosage from now on. Then I asked, "How are the preparations going with the Sheldon family?" The maid smiled at me. "Please rest assured, the Sheldon family can act at any time." But she paused, then cautiously added, "Miss Serena wants to see you." After much deliberation, I chose a time when Lucas wasn't there to see Serena. Lucas had arranged for her to be in the best location, showing how much he cherished her. When I saw her, she was wearing an elegant long dress, reclining on a chaise lounge reading a book, looking gentle and serene. No wonder she's Lucas's unrequited love. Seeing me enter, she quickly stood up. "You're here, Sophia." Yes, this wasn't the first time Serena and I had met. I'd seen her the very first day after my rebirth. Back then, because of her porn star background, she was maliciously targeted online with rumors of being kept by a sugar daddy and all sorts of vulgar language. I knew Lucas had orchestrated it. Reality is always harsh on women. Women with good figures are often viewed with malicious intent, while men are treated the opposite. For female celebrities, having their abilities negated because of labels is a common occurrence. People often say beauty is an added bonus at work, but for women, it often brings more malice. I helped her resolve the situation, told her the truth, and intended for her to fake her death to escape. After all, her deceased mother was a close friend of my mother's, but I never expected Lucas to be reborn. I took off my coat, sat opposite her, and looked at her intently. "Have you thought this through?" She smoothed her hair, poured me a cup of tea, and said, "Yes, I have." Seeing me take a sip, she continued, "He completely trusts me now, and it won't be long before I get the evidence." She gripped the teacup tightly, gritting her teeth as she said, "The sins they committed, it'll make them pay double." I pursed my lips, unable to resist asking again, "Serena, the price to pay is too heavy. Are you really sure?" Serena nodded resolutely. "Of course." I looked at the tea in the cup, chuckled softly, and said nothing more. When I learned that Lucas had also been reborn, I began to exploit his decade-long infatuation with Serena, positioning myself as the dominant one and Serena as the vulnerable one, quickly arousing his protective instincts towards her. However, now, his pity for Serena was still one step away. The next day, Eleanor texted me to have Lucas and me go back to the old house for dinner, and I knew my chance had come. I texted Serena, asking her to go on a date with Lucas. This time, I could only ask Serena to make the sacrifice. When Serena sent me the address, I went to bump into her without hesitation. When I arrived, Lucas was accompanying Serena shopping at a jewelry store. He froze when he saw me. Instinctively shielding Serena, I gave a signal to the person next to me, who immediately stepped forward and pulled Serena and Lucas apart. Lucas was pinned to the ground, unable to move, and angrily said, "Sophia, what's wrong with you now? Let me go." I ignored him, walked straight to Serena, held up the ring she had just tried on, and slapped her across the face in front of everyone. Serena covered her face, biting her lip, her eyes red, looking at Lucas with a pitiful expression. Lucas immediately flew into a rage, yelling at me without regard for his image. "Sophia, are you crazy? How dare you hit my person?" More and more onlookers gathered around. I ignored his anger and calmly slapped him back. "What are you yelling for? I didn't slap you in the face, did I? What's the rush?" "Lucas, I've been giving you face all this time. You even dared to buy your little lover a wedding ring. Do you think the Sheldon family is dead?" Upon hearing that Lucas was involved in an infidelity scandal, everyone around pulled out their phones. Obviously, we were about to explode again. Then I slapped him a few more times. He looked at me in disbelief, then snapped and yelled, "Sophia, you bitch. I'm going to strangle you. I stood aside, ignoring his words. The Preston family's butler stepped forward and said, "Young master, it's not Madam's fault. Old Madam Eleanor wanted you all to return to the old house today, but she couldn't get through to you on the phone. Old Madam Eleanor asked me to ask you, but now her words don't matter anymore." Upon hearing the old lady's name, Lucas's anger subsided considerably. "Sophia, you shouldn't have attacked right away. What's the difference between you and a shrew?" Serena said cautiously, "It's my fault. Please stop arguing." Seeing Serena on the verge of tears, Lucas immediately felt sorry for her. "Serena, it's none of your business. It's all this shrew's fault. She has no manners whatsoever." I crossed my arms and looked at them with a sarcastic smile. How can it not be her business? A lover should act like a lover, just stay in the gutter and be a stinking rat that can't see the light of day, instead of dreaming about buying a wedding ring. It's laughable, and she has the nerve to pretend to be wronged. The people around started gossiping, each one more rude than the last. Lucas suddenly felt he had lost face, and was about to speak when Serena swayed and fell into Lucas's arms. Lucas immediately picked up Serena and threatened me menacingly, "Sophia, if anything happens to Serena, I'll never let you get away with it." With that, he strode away with Serena in his arms. I watched his retreating figure and smiled coldly. Who will let whom go is still uncertain. After Lucas left, I immediately returned to the Preston family mansion, tears streaming down my face. Before I could speak, the butler spoke first. "Madam Eleanor, the young master isn't coming back today." Eleanor clutched her rosary beads, her face contorted with anger. What could be more important to him than the family? The butler glanced at me, hesitating before replying. "The young master should be at the hospital with Miss Serena right now." Hearing this, Eleanor's anger flared even more. What a rebellious son. He's taken everything I said to heart. Bring him back here immediately. She paused, her brows furrowing even deeper. "And that Serena girl, teach her a lesson she won't forget. Let her know that the Preston family isn't a place she can just climb into." I sneered inwardly, but maintained a magnanimous expression on my face. "Mom, don't be angry. You might hurt yourself. Lucas is only thinking about our high school friendship. He'll understand in time." Eleanor slammed her hand on the table angrily. "That bitch Serena doesn't deserve you." Then she sighed. "Fine, Sophia, I'm just worried about you." "Don't worry, I won't agree. That unfilial son is blinded by greed, marrying someone as virtuous as you and still not satisfied." I sneered inwardly. "Bullshit. You're worried about me being wronged? Clearly, it's all for your own selfish reasons." The Preston, Sheldon, and Winston families were old friends. Eleanor had long admired the Winston family's young master, but he already had someone he loved. Unable to win his heart, Eleanor could only obey her family's arrangement and marry into the Preston family. Unexpectedly, the Preston family's young master was a master of seduction. With countless lovers after marrying into the family, she endured the provocations of her husband's various lovers and the disdain of her in-laws every day, making her situation extremely difficult. The Winstons, however, lived in perfect harmony, which fueled her resentment and turned her love into hatred. She hated everything about the Winston family. So how could she stand by and watch Lucas and the Winston's daughter become entangled? Eleanor, fearing a complaint to the Sheldon family, showered me with compliments that evening and let me choose many items from her jewelry. I didn't hesitate, picking only the expensive pieces. Then, with feigned reluctance, I said, "Mom, you should give the vice president position to Lucas. With everything that's happened to outsiders, I seem somewhat unworthy." To appease me, Eleanor feigned anger and said, "Sophia, go for it. With me here, let's see who dares say a bad word about you." Not only that, she directly handed over the management of the Preston group to me. Perhaps my performance was so convincing that they were convinced of my feelings for Lucas. Not long after returning to the villa, Serena's message arrived. "Got it." I smiled with satisfaction and turned to the maid beside me, saying, "Tell the Sheldon family they can make their move now." The real show was finally about to begin. The Preston family had benefited greatly from the marriage between the Preston and Sheldon families. This year's group annual meeting was going to be a grand affair, with many large companies invited. I was dressed in a dark green dress, looking every bit the elegant lady. Serena was also there as their spokesperson. Eleanor led me around toasting guests. Lucas arrived late, and just as we were about to go on stage to speak, the banquet doors were suddenly flung open. A heavily pregnant woman was dragged in by two middle-aged men. Serena and I exchanged a glance and smiled in unison. Eleanor looked at them, frowned, and asked, "Who are you people? Get out of here right now." The middle-aged man shouted, "You have the nerve to tell us to get out. Your son got my daughter pregnant and doesn't want to take responsibility. If you don't give us an explanation today, nobody will get away with this." A murmur of discussion arose around us. Lucas immediately jumped up from his chair. "What nonsense are you talking about? I've never seen her." The man looked at him and sneered, "Young Master Preston, you certainly have a bad memory. Come on, everyone, listen to this recording. Is this you?" As he spoke, he turned on his phone and played a recording on repeat. The content was short, and the background noise was a bit noisy, but Lucas's voice was crystal clear. "Let me tell you, I will never acknowledge this child. Don't you know who you are? How dare you dream of marrying into the Preston family like your mother? I think you're tired of living. While I still have patience, hurry up and get rid of the child, otherwise, once I take matters into my own hands, I'm afraid you won't even be able to save your life." The man pressed the play button and looked at Lucas with a sneer. "Young Master Preston, did you hear me? You look so respectable, yet you slept with my daughter and threatened us to have an abortion. There's always a price to pay. 10 million for this recording or I'll call the police. And your company's reputation will be ruined too." Eleanor yelled angrily, pointing her finger at the man's nose. "Who do you think you are, daring to extort money from the Preston family? Get out of here right now." The man's wife retorted angrily, "And who do you think you are? You keep calling yourselves a wealthy family, but you do nothing but despicable things. Neither you nor your son are any good." Lucas, enraged, rushed forward and slapped the woman without a word. Seeing his wife being hit, the man gritted his teeth and retaliated. The two began fighting on the spot. Guests, fearing involvement, quickly retreated. The next second, a large number of reporters flooded in, and the scene became chaotic. Eleanor was so angry she almost had a heart attack. I rushed forward to support her, feigning concern, and asked, "Mom, are you all right?" She couldn't speak, but grabbed my arm as if to say something. I calmly looked at her and nodded. "Mom, I'm fine, leave it to me." Before I could finish speaking, there was a loud thud, and Lucas collapsed to the ground. The man, holding a broken bottle, froze. Seeing blood gushing from Lucas's head, Eleanor cried out in pain and also fainted. I took out my phone and called the police and an ambulance. Watching this comical scene, I burst out laughing. The annual meeting ended with the arrival of the police. Lucas and Eleanor were both admitted to the hospital. The gossip about the group trended on social media for days. The company's stock price plummeted, and the board of directors gradually became uneasy. But I wasn't worried. Lucas had a few stitches in his head, nothing serious. But his mental state wasn't good. I knew very well that the head injury was just a minor problem, and his condition was due to the effects of medication. He had to bear the consequences of his cleverness. Not long after, Eleanor woke up, and I rushed to her bedside and helped her sit up. "Mom, how are you feeling now?" Seeing me, she grabbed my hand as if she had seen her pillar of support and asked, "Where's Lucas? Is he all right? And what about that family? Where are those despicable people now?" I bit my lip, feigning helplessness. "Lucas is awake, but his mental state isn't good. The doctor said it might be due to the impact. As for that family, don't worry, I've taken care of them. They won't pursue the matter any further, and the child will be aborted." After I finished speaking, Eleanor's expression immediately turned fierce. "They injured Lucas. It's our responsibility to hold them accountable. Who told you to let them go on your own?" "But Mom, if we don't do this, the outside world won't believe us." I feigned difficulty, sighing deeply. "You don't know. The reporters have published everything that happened that day. Now the group's stock has plummeted, and the company is in chaos." Upon hearing about the stock market crash, Eleanor immediately became impatient and completely delegated authority to me. Letting me handle this matter urgently, I agreed without hesitation. The very next day, while Eleanor anxiously awaited my results, Lucas suddenly drove off like a madman because Serena was leaving. This was my arrangement. Even though he wasn't thinking clearly, he still remembered Serena. Although his feelings weren't pure, it was enough for me to make good use of him again. Not long after, I received a call that Lucas's car had crashed into a truck on the highway. The highway guardrail saved Lucas's life, but it was truly only one life. When the ambulance arrived, Lucas was pulled from the car, his body a bloody mess, one leg trapped under the seat, likely permanently injured. Eleanor, upon hearing the news of Lucas's accident, was frantic and berated me. What was he doing driving out? Who let him go out? I stammered. The maid said he was going to the airport to see Serena. but he was driving too fast and crashed into the highway guardrail. Hearing it was Serena, Eleanor immediately launched into a tirade. What a scourge. Just like her mother. If anything happens to Lucas, I'll never forgive her. The next second, the doctor came out and said he had survived, but was now in a vegetative state with little chance of recovery. I immediately covered my face and wept bitterly. Upon hearing this news, Eleanor fainted again. I watched as Eleanor was wheeled into the intensive care unit, raising my hand to straighten my disheveled skirt. What she didn't know was that the hospital had long been acquired by the Sheldon family, and the top management had been completely reshuffled. The hospital was now staffed entirely by Sheldon family members. Only the 2 critically ill patients were outsiders. When the group's board of directors heard that their 2 key figures were hospitalized, they were utterly alarmed. When Mr. Anderson came to visit, Eleanor was still lying in the intensive care unit. What do we do now? The group's stock hasn't even hit its daily limit down yet, and Mrs. Eleanor is in the hospital again. I glanced at the butler, pursing my lips without saying a word. The butler immediately understood and walked over to me in front of Mr. Anderson. Madam, only you can save the company now. Mr. Anderson looked at us, a hint of hesitation flashing in his eyes. The butler, however, ignored me and continued. Mrs. Eleanor entrusted you with the management before, which shows that she recognizes your abilities. Now that she and the young master are both unconscious, only you can hold the fort. I pretended to decline, but I'm pregnant now. The butler continued to add fuel to the fire. Then for the sake of the future young master, you must take even more control of the group now. Upon hearing that I was pregnant, Mr. Anderson immediately echoed, Sophia, the company really can only rely on you. I was silent for a moment before agreeing. The marriage between the Sheldon and Preston families was originally intended to allow the Sheldon family to subtly infiltrate the Preston family. Many of the group's directors had connections to the Sheldon family, and with the substantial shares Eleanor had given me, controlling the group was a piece of cake. After taking full control, I overhauled the company, causing the stock to plummet. By the time Eleanor found out, the group was already under my control. I went to see Eleanor, bringing someone with me. I walked in carrying flowers, then sat on the sofa beside her, smiling at Eleanor. Mom, how are you feeling? Eleanor sneered. Isn't my death exactly what you wanted? I shook my head with a smile. No, Mom, you have to live well and watch your grandson grow up. Eleanor frowned, puzzled. What grandson? I pretended to suddenly remember, touching my stomach and smiling. I forgot to tell you, Mom, I'm pregnant. You'll be having a grandson soon. Eleanor sneered. No wonder you're a Sheldon daughter. What a shrewd move. I tilted my head and smiled. Of course, it can't compare to how you treated the Winstons back then. Eleanor was taken aback. The next second, Serena pushed open the door and entered. Mom, look at how infatuated Lucas is with Serena. Doesn't it remind you of how you were infatuated with Serena's father back then? She seemed to be provoked by me and started cursing loudly while lying on the bed. You two bitches. Serena, you're just like your mother, you whore. Serena walked over with a stern face and slapped her twice. Watch your mouth. If it weren't for you, my parents wouldn't have died in that car accident, and the Winston family wouldn't have been swallowed up by you. I have evidence of your tampering with my phone. Tell me, what will happen to you if I hand it over? Eleanor panicked immediately. You dare, I said indifferently. Whether you dare or not depends on your sincerity. You know what to say to the board of directors, right? After saying that, Serena and I turned and left, leaving Eleanor alone in the hospital room. Roaring, I knew she was unwilling, but she had no way out. We had enough leverage to make her compromise. An old woman on her twilight years certainly didn't want to spend her later years in prison. I guess she was still thinking of sowing discord between us after I had a child, but I wasn't pregnant. That day I went to see Lucas's mistress and her family. I promised to give them 10 million, enough to ensure they would live a life of comfort, but the child had to be born. 10 million, a son for free. I wasn't losing out. A few days after the board meeting ended, news came from the hospital that Lucas had woken up. I wasn't surprised at all. After all, he hadn't really become a vegetable. I had the doctor deliberately lie to Eleanor, however. His legs were indeed truly useless, leaving him disabled. I went to the hospital to see him, bringing the soup he had made for me in my past life. Darling, do you remember this soup? He was still somewhat delirious. Staring blankly at me, I continued. Do you remember when I was pregnant, you often brought me this soup? He finally reacted, his eyes widening in astonishment. I smiled darkly. How come I lost my baby after drinking this soup? He sat up in fear, shoving my hand away. How could you know about my past life? Who are you? I smashed the bowl on the ground and slapped him. You think you're the only one who's been reborn? He was startled by my words. Lucas, let me tell you, you don't deserve to be human. You think Serena likes you? She disgusts you. Your mother killed the Winston family, shed rather like a dog than you. Lucas finally realized, gritting his teeth and cursing at me. Oh, right. I forgot to tell you, I'm the president of the Preston Corporation now, Sophia. You vile woman, you slut. What right do you have to be the president of the corporation if you're not a member of the Preston family? I grabbed his hair hard. Do you think you have a chance to get out? They all know you're in a vegetative state now. Nobody will remember you. From now on, you'll stay here obediently until you die, and you won't find a way out. With that, I turned and left. Lucas panicked completely. He scrambled off the bed, collapsed to the floor, and lay there helplessly, roaring, Sophia, I was wrong. Please let me go. I really know I was wrong. I sneered, slammed the door shut, and shut him out. The next day, Serena went to the police station and handed over the evidence of Eleanor's framing of the Winston family. Soon, everyone in the industry knew about the feud between the Preston and Winston families. While feeling sorry for the Winston family, they also cursed Eleanor. The day Eleanor was taken away was sunny and breezy, and news came from the hospital that Lucas was going insane. When I heard this news, the famous actress Serena and I were leisurely having afternoon tea. Serena kindly asked me, aren't you really planning to divorce and remarry? I smiled, my eyes narrowing. Why divorce? I have a son now, but no husband. I can go out and date young, handsome men, isn't that great? Serena tilted her head, her smile deep. Well, I was worrying unnecessarily, but I still want to thank you. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. I gently shook my head and raised my teacup. May we be reborn. Reborn.